getting such a big result, given the narrative?
Nah, not at all. No, I mean, I've said it many times. It doesn't. I don't know. I don't know how else to explain it. It's not. It's not a motivator for me to prove people wrong. It never has been. I find that kind of an empty kind of, I don't know, ambition to try. Because I just think some people will always take a view on something because of, whatever personal feelings they have, or whatever historical context they give to things. So I don't get any sort of satisfaction in proving people wrong. I get satisfaction from achieving things and sharing them with people. That's always been my motivator. So, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I get that, and that's fair enough. I don't think anyone is. We all have, different sort of views on life and people, and so I think sometimes I certainly think in this role anyway. And I say it to coaches all the time. The game and the noise around it will always try and change you as a person. Just don't let that happen. Be who you are, and some people will like you, some people won't. Ultimately, what's important to you is that, what's important to me is that, like I said, stay focused on trying to achieve something special and sharing it with people.
And you're now in a situation where, in terms of European football next year, it's kind of win the Europa League and get in the Champions League or nothing. How difficult does that make it to plan ahead in terms of squad size, signings, contracts, everything really?
Well, it depends. It depends on your outlook. I mean, I think irrespective, we should keep building on what we've started. We've had a clear plan from when we started about how we're going to play and what kind of squad we we're going to have, and how we're going to build that squad. And I don't think that's any secret. We've gone for a certain age profile, knowing it's going to be something we need to build on, and that should continue. I don't think that should change. Now, maybe, if you get Champions League football, that accelerates certain things. We know the demands of European football, irrespective of the competition, particularly Europa and Champions League, can have a serious effect on your capabilities as a club and a squad, not just for us, I think for all clubs. You can see that, or the 2 extra games this year in Europe, which are going to be there sort of consistently now, that puts extra strain. So that affects more around, size of your squad and the kind of profile your squad has. But, for me, it doesn't really change anything. We need to continue on the strategy we've started with. We've got a really exciting young squad that I think will continue to improve. We've obviously had some challenges this year around particularly injuries and our ability to cope with Europe and domestic, and that's something I feel we're better placed to tackle if we're in Champions League next year. But in terms of the overall policy, I wouldn't see any significant change.
And then finally, you have spoken about the kind of importance of now focused in the league, and you've got the semi-final coming up, and you've almost shown in the Frankfurt game that you can kind of raise your levels for a one-off match. Does it become even more of a challenge now to get the players heads right for kind of games like Monday night?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, I think we know what it's well, part of it is just our ability to kind of manage the squad, and in the past it's been how do we sort of manage having a small squad. Now it's about sort of making changes and not disrupting the fluency of it, because a lot of it is just the way that the players kind of understand each other and the cohesion that you have when you play a certain lineup for continuously, and that's our challenge. I guess we know that the semi-finals in a couple of weeks' time. We've got 2 important games before that. We certainly need to get some game time into some guys between now and then, but also, like I said, hopefully it doesn't disrupt fluency. But we know we're going to have to be at a certain level, particularly like I said, Forest Monday night's going to be a big challenge for us, but a good challenge.
Just on that, as you say, it's the best preparation for playing the semi-finals to be on a high and being positive. But the players wouldn't be human themselves, and they're not thinking about the semi-final. What do you use to? Do you say, look, lads, you've got to play properly, otherwise you won't be playing in the semi-final? How do you get that level you're going to need to match the Forest team on Monday, who have got big players?
Yeah, look, I don't think I don't think it's about that, but the reality is that you need to play to. We saw that in the Wolves game. We played well, but we lacked a little bit of concentration, focus, and we paid the price. Premier League, that irrespective of who you're playing against, that's going to be the case. So players are aware of that. Like I said, for us, it's just about making sure that we use the games we have between now and the semi-final as best preparation. And I think best preparation is to play well, to have everyone in a good physical and sort of mental condition for those games. And the best way to do that is to have a strong performance Monday.
Another way of doing it is to say, look, regardless of the injuries, we're Tottenham and we shouldn't be where we are in the league. You need to think about that. Think about the pride element of not being, just above the relegation zone.
Yeah, but I don't think that's not the case. I don't think players accept where we are. I certainly haven't accepted where we are in the league. We understand that. It's been a disappointing year, and for many, in many respects, and I think there are reasons behind that, but irrespective of those reasons, we should be in a better place. And the players, it's not like the players are happy with where we're at. They haven't been all along and want to address that, and Monday night's a good chance to do that.
Richie.
Hi, Joe. I'm not sure if you're a tennis fan, but Billie Jean King once said pressure is a privilege. Do you agree with that sentiment as a Spurs boss? And do you think your players rise to the occasion when they take through from victory?
It depends on sort of how you define pressure. I think a lot of people kind of assume that pressure is something that is sort of a negative. What you do know in this kind of role is that it's a constant, and you either embrace it or you're kind of never going to be in a space where you're ever going to sort of be at peace with what you do, because pressure is always there, irrespective of where you are. You look at it, if you're in our position, or Tottenham managers under pressure, all the managers feel that sort of pressure, but there's also a side of it that if you're in this kind of role for any length of time, you enjoy, because the opposite of not having pressure is you're probably not in a job. And I can tell you that is a much worse feeling for anyone who likes this kind of vocation. I love the fact that every game, everything's on edge, that could go one way, could go the other. There's always kind of the unknowns. That's what I love about it. So what others see as pressure, that's the bit I enjoy. That's the bit, that's why I do what I do. I'd hate to think that I ever go to a game of football and not really care about the outcome, or I don't think that exists anyway. I just don't think that world exists where you can just roll up and, like I said, that everyone loves you and there's no pressure and the outcome doesn't matter. I mean, that's just the role. So you accept that as part of the role. I have from day one. I enjoy that part. Like I said, I don't know, I keep forgetting how many years I've been doing this. 27, 28 years. There was only sort of 9-10 months where I wasn't coaching in between roles, and that was the most unhappiest I've been, and you realise what I miss is this, not this, but what others see as pressure, that competitive unknown that we all strive for. That's what gets the adrenaline. That's why you saw so much joy after the game, because that's what pressure is. That is the opportunity to achieve, and so I just take it as a constant.
Do you get that when the chips are down? Do you feel that players share that
I think so. It's harder when you're a player and you're younger because, again, you kind of, everyone tells you that, not tells you, but, again, the perception is that pressure is a bad thing or that, you should, but there isn't a comfortable space if you're an elite sportsman. Elite sport is about being uncomfortable all the time, and that's part of it as well. But, I think I said after the game, this group of players and staff, but particularly the players, I've never felt like I've lost belief and have stayed really, really united. And that's why, they were able to perform in the manner they did last night. Because we had, the majority of our best players available, but also that through the time that, they weren't available, everyone stuck together and, they've earned now the opportunity to play in a semi-final and hopefully, create something special. Thanks,
Alex. On your semi-final opponent, Spurs linked as well, I see another team that kind of surprisingly, I'd say, had the opportunity to play in a Europa League semi-final. Being someone that has coached in kind of smaller leagues in the Premier League before, and perhaps clubs that aren't expected to be in those kind of positions, I guess there's no sense in you kind of overlooking an opponent like Bodo Glimt for that kind of thing.
No, I don't think it's surprising. I obviously have history with Bodo. We played them when I was at Celtic and scouted them pretty extensively for that game. And I remember they beat Roma at home with Jose, and I remember Jose speaking about how difficult it was playing there, and I followed them closely, and you've seen their growth. They are very difficult. They've got good talent ID. They've had players who've moved on and done really well. Very consistent, same manager, which always helps. And they've built real belief in their club. So I think they've earned the right to be in the semi-final. It's not like they've had an easy sort of ride through it. They are a very, very difficult opponent away from home. Absolutely. You just have to look at their record. But yeah, the balance of that is that Frankfurt had a pretty good home record as well, just as compelling. So I think you're in the semi-final. I don't think anyone would underestimate any opponent, but I certainly won't. I know them really well, and I know the challenge we're going to have to try and overcome them.
And Manchester United, obviously the other club that are in other English club that are in Europe League semi-final. Ruben Amorim said after the game that he'd maybe take the approach of playing the kids in the Premier League games up until now, and that time against Bilbao. That's not really an approach that kind of, as you kind of outlined, an approach that really suits Spurs between now and then. Primarily because, one, you're the Premier League or kind of classical Premier League, kind of build some kind of momentum, but also getting players like, as mentioned, Kulusevski or Damso, right physically, in some form for those kind of matches as well.
Yeah. We've been playing the kids all year, mate. I mean, I don't know how many teenagers we've had, even in the Europa League. We've been playing kids all year. I mean, that's the situation we were in. So, we kind of had to deal with that for a long period of time. And, you pay a price for that because, but we've also benefited from that because, when you look at guys like Lucas and I won't name all of them, but all the others who've sort of grown through the year for us. I think it's been, the negative stuff hasn't been balanced by the positives, but certainly I think we'll get some real growth. But, for us, I guess the beauty of it is now our kids are well and truly exposed to Premier League football, and I think, I think that's going to benefit us moving forward.
I'm Hyun Gi-bae from South Korea. Let me ask you about the positive relationship between Europa League and the Premier League fixtures, actually. What is the meaning of the victory on the Thursday night game as a team chemistry? I mean, could it be a new motivation or confidence to change the atmosphere of the squad in the Premier League fixtures?
Yeah, look, I don't think it changes because, like I said, I think you don't get a performance like that if if it wasn't a positive dressing room anyway. It's just, like I said, I think we haven't had the opportunity to perform at the level we want to on a consistent basis because we haven't had our best players available. But what Thursday night does give you is, sort of clear targets now in terms of now and the end of the year, in terms of what we can achieve, and still something really special we can achieve. And I think that, that further fuels the positive atmosphere we have in the dressing room. But, there's no escaping our league form is nowhere near where it should be. And I said the players are the first ones who aren't accepting of that and want to change that. And we have 6 games to try and, address a really disappointing league season for us. But we're also in the second semi-final in the same season as well. So I don't think you do that unless there's still a very positive feeling within the rooms.
Can one result change everything? Have you seen that before?
Have I seen it before? Yeah, at times it can, depending on the result, and I guess more importantly, sort of the context in which it's made, and it's easy to sit here and say, well, Thursday night's a pivotal moment, but it won't be a pivotal moment if we don't back it up in the semi, and that's where you find out whether it was, and if you do a season review DVD, do they do DVDs, whatever they do anyway, you might go, oh, well, that was the turning point, but you only do that at sort of the end. Do I think Thursday was significant? Yeah, I do, for a number of reasons. One is that, like I said, we overcame a real difficult opponent. I think we deserved to go through. There was no luck about it. Over the 2 leagues, we were the stronger team. We did it in a real sort of convincing manner, and just the prospect of being in a semi-final now, you're 2 games away from a European final. I think that is hugely incentivising. So it may be that was the pivotal game Thursday night, but we won't know that.
You also did it in a way that a lot of people think, in a fashion, people think that you can't produce a style of play that people think you don't want to produce. Is that significant? Maybe not for you, but to show it can be done.
Yeah, but I think we've shown that before. I mean, I think, a lot of our significant victories, even this year, have come away from home, whether that was, Man City away or, Man United away or Brentford away, or, some of our best performances have been away from home, similar type performers. I think there's always a difference when you play away in Europe. But, again, I think that doesn't feed into the narrative of me being, fairly simple in terms of my tactical approach. I only do things one way, and that's all I've done. And all my success has been a sort of one-trick pony. But I think what the players showed on Thursday night was, I think, and that's my experience in Europe, but that when you play away from home, it demands of you different things that it does probably in domestic competition, not least because of the atmosphere you face. And, people who travel to these European games understand what that means. That provides motivation and sort of incentive to the opposition, and you have to deal with that. And I thought the lads dealt with it outstandingly the other night. That's a team that we kind of knew at home are really, really tough. They always score goals at home. So if you can keep a clean sheet, that's a significant sort of development. If you can win there, that's another significant sort of development because they're very strong. So the fact that the manner in which they did it, a lot of part of that is, I think, just the atmosphere at the ground. I think their supporters make them a tough team to beat.
May I ask you quickly about Dom Solanke as well? So much more of a better team with him in it.
Yeah,
more complete. What's your sort of view?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know, obviously he's a striker, and when they don't score, people kind of focus on that, but he does. He's such an important part of the way we play. I thought our sort of back four, back five were outstanding, but I thought our front three were just so disciplined also in their defensive work on Thursday night. Dom and the two wingers, they had important jobs for us from a defensive point of view, and you ask them to do such a sort of massive physical load, and then they still have to sort of produce when the ball gets up to them in an attacking sense, and they're not exactly maybe in other teams that they. If you look at Frankfurt, they don't ask of that of Ekitike, and when he gets the ball, he feels fresh and he can run at people. Dom's usually receives the ball after he's done 4 or 5 sprints, closing people down. So you kind of factor that into it, but we feel that as a team that gives us a better chance of success. So delighted for him. He took his penalty really well. Don't underestimate the pressure that he was under in that moment. Again, you're taking a penalty away in Europe, knowing how significant it is, right in front of their most vocal part of their fan base. It just shows the measure of the guy that didn't miss a beat. So important goal for us, important play for us. And we missed him when he was out. When he was out, Richie was out as well. So that was a big hole in our team. But having them both now, and Richie's another one who's got to get some game time next couple of games because he's looking really good at training. But Dom's been super important.
Okay.
Thanks.